Hi, I'm Stefan Pryor. I serve as Commerce Secretary here in Rhode Island. Pleased to bring greetings on behalf of Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. She's unable to coordinate the show today, but she asked me to stand in. I'm really honored and privileged to be doing so. Thank you so much to the Lieutenant Governor. I assure you, her attention remains on small business, and we often serve as co-hosts or substitutes for one another. I'm sorry that you have the less impressive of the two. But I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of the Lieutenant Governor. What we want to talk about today is that the governor, Dan McKee, yesterday spoke at greater length about his request that we start to undertake the expenditure of some of our $1.1 billion in American Rescue Plan funding for the purpose of supporting impacted small businesses and impacted industries in our state. We know that in spite of, even in the context of our very strong economic recovery coming out of COVID, there are small businesses and there are industries that are still struggling. There's no doubt about it. And we hear about it with frequency. I want to talk about our recovery briefly and then talk about those vulnerabilities and then turn it over to the experts. We have a handful of terrific participants in today's show. So we hope we make the Lieutenant Governor proud, and we hope this is informative for all of you. So first of all, let's check in on the status of our economic recovery. It is indeed strong under this governor and this lieutenant governor with the partnership of the General Assembly and its Speaker and Senate President. We are doing well. We are ranked by Moody's as having the fifth strongest economic recovery in the country. That's on what they call their back to normal index. We have the strongest return to business, the strongest resurgence in the Northeast, number one in the Northeast. So that's obviously outstanding. We would have it no other way. In past recessions and downturns, of course, it has been another way, which is to say that we've been a laggard state. Now we're a leader state. We want to stay there. We want to keep our foot on the pedal. We want to keep pushing forward with the recovery. We don't want to let our surrounding states catch up with them. We want to keep leading the region out of this recovery. And we know that other states are starting to invest their American Rescue Plan dollars, their ARP dollars, in economic small business assistance, in impacted industry assistance, and other economic development measures. So can we do the same? Can we, in fact, lead in this manner is the question that's in front of us. We are the only state in the Northeast that hasn't allocated a single dollar of its American Rescue Plan discretionary money. We know that very wisely, the elected leaders of this state are moving towards long-term investment with the bulk of the money. And we think that makes enormous sense. We think that we should dedicate the majority of the dollars, even the vast majority, to long-term investments in key areas that will propel Rhode Island forward into the next decade and well beyond. Governor McKee has established a Rhode Island 2030 visioning process to frame out such ideas. So he's very much in support of that, and the lieutenant governor is very much in support of that. But we do think that it's reasonable to allocate, say, 10% of the money for starters, if not more, for the purpose of small business recovery, impacted industry remedies, and childcare, housing, and other immediate concerns, immediate investments. So that's what the governor elaborated upon yesterday. Some factual points. First of all, the governor is calling the package the Rhode Island Rebounds package, Rhode Island Rebounds. It includes the following. I'm going to rattle them off. Public health adaptation supports similar to our very popular Take It Outside program. A number of our guests have been very involved with that program and have helped to disperse the monies and ensure very effective use to date. But we're hearing from restaurants and retailers and others that they want to take their activities outdoors. They want to take the fight against COVID outside. And they know that in order to do so, they need some more money. They need to further invest in outdoor streetscape, outdoor furniture, outdoor lighting, outdoor blankets, to make sure that customers feel warm. This is from the Rhode Island Hospitality Association from the last winter season, BYO blanket. Thank you to Sarah, who we're going to hear from, and to Dale Venturini. So they want to make more of those investments, and they want to therefore increase consumer confidence that even as we are now in the fall and headed towards winter, there'll be opportunities to dine and shop in the outdoors if that is the consumer's preference. So that's one example. Financial assistance to support ventilation systems. A number of indoor facilities want to further ventilate to keep people safer, and again, to boost consumer confidence. Can we provide some funding to enable that? Wraparound business supports, e-commerce supports, and other tech upgrades. A lot of businesses are aiming to, especially smaller businesses, get online so that they can market online and conduct sales online. Main Street storefront facade and streetscape improvements, creating a more welcoming front door to small business, shops, and other storefronts to enable patrons to continue to visit, customers to continue to shop. Workforce recruitment and training initiatives. We know that there are big challenges around attracting a workforce at this moment in time in our small businesses, across all businesses. How can we help to support them conduct their own business in attracting workers and conducting training? Can we help intermediaries like associations and chambers of commerce do that work? And direct financial assistance and grants, especially for hardest hit industries and smaller businesses. How can we provide direct relief, direct grant making to industries and small businesses for these purposes? So these are among the points in Governor McKee's and Lieutenant Governor Matos's package. A couple other key facts before we open up to some panelists to offer their remarks today. Other states are getting in the business of making these investments. Other states are getting going, including right next door, Connecticut, which is distributing more than $40 million to the state's tourism and hospitality sector. Maine is dedicating more than $70 million in economic recovery grants, loans, and loan guarantees for small businesses and COVID-impacted industry sectors. Virginia is distributing $250 million for what they call a Rebuild Virginia program, which includes supports for businesses in the hospitality and tourism industries. Alaska's dedicating $90 million in supports. They have an important tourism industry important to their economy. They're making those kinds of investments. So you get the idea. States in our region and around the country are making investments, and we're the only state, Rhode Island is the only state in the Northeast that hasn't made any allocations yet. We are fortunate to be in cooperative and constructive dialogue with the leaders of the General Assembly. So we're optimistic that these funds can be identified and freed up in the appropriate process, and that we can get this kind of funding flow going so that, as the governor has correctly identified, we can provide relief to, among others, small businesses and impacted industries. So that's our topic for today. We're glad to be continuing this conversation in this forum. And we're going to check in now. Ben, has Rick Simone from the Ocean State Coalition arrived?
Yes, he has.
Fantastic, Ben. Great to have you here to enable this. As always, you're amazing. And can we bring Mr. Rick Simone on? He's with the Ocean State Coalition and the Federal Hill Commerce Association. And Rick, thank you so much for your remarks yesterday, for informing us and really inspiring us to help move this money. And could you share with us your perspective?
No, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me. And I was glad to join everybody yesterday. It was important topics that were discussed. And even today, there's been a lot more feedback since, yesterday's announcement. I think that no matter what industry you're in, from a small business perspective, whether it be the restaurants, hospitality, tourism, gyms, salons, I heard from 2 salon owners this morning. I think that regardless, there is a immediate need. All the topics you just covered, I could go on to each one and say, specifically that I've gotten examples from individuals around the state. I think that, the amount of money that we're looking at is not a large chunk that the governor has requested. I don't think that people should be expecting that there's an opportunity, for $50,000, $60,000 grants. But at this point, anything that we can get is incredibly helpful. I've had people today talk to me about the ventilation systems. that we were speaking about, that they started this process with HEPA filters, but anything, a $5,000 advance to help them finish up this project would be tremendously helpful. Some of the things that we mentioned that were not obvious to the consumer's eyes, or the supply chain issues that we faced. Everything from food costs to plastic cups, which apparently just started disappearing in the last couple of weeks that you can't get. Those are increased costs. Staffing and labor increased costs. The food has been increased costs. So the consumer doesn't see this, but the owners and operators of these businesses are seeing it on a daily basis. So while they're having more business this year, they're not necessarily making more money, and in some cases are falling behind or having to lessen their hours as a result of it. So I think that this proposal, this narrative that the governor has put together, could be extremely beneficial. It's just everything comes down to timing. So however we can support you to push for this sooner than later, that's not something we can wait for until December or January at this point. If you don't mind, Stefan, I gave the example yesterday that
Please.
I talked about this morning, was that, during our Take It Outside grant on Federal Hill and our Hearts grant, one of the opportunities that we had was to purchase heaters. And we purchased, just like the Hospitality Association did a very similar program that Dale and Sarah executed beautifully, was that we put 250 out on Federal Hill, and that alone allowed us to extend business by over 3 months. And then we invested.
Remarkably effective. How worthwhile can an investment be? Look at that.
Yeah, and we took another $15,000 and invested in a new delivery company that the Commerce had also supported, DaySap. And we had anything and everything, didn't matter what it was, from Federal Hill delivered, and that $15,000 equated into almost just about $600,000 in revenue, just from that small investment to put into that. So there are opportunities. The people we deal with are incredibly inventive and creative. So this is something that we need as quickly as we can get it.
Rick, thank you for that perspective. Super helpful. You mentioned that you're hearing from a variety of businesses now. We are very appropriately together, and along with our colleague Sarah, focused on restaurants, focused on other hospitality businesses. Sounds like you're hearing from some others. Would you just say a little bit more about that? And then I'm in fact going to invite Sarah on.
Yeah, absolutely. This morning alone, I heard from 2 gyms. I heard from 1 salon, and I actually even heard from a doctor's office that was in the process of trying to put in the filtration systems. So they're all wondering, they're all in the same boat. They're all in this situation where there are things that they can do to improve the activities. The Take It Outside initiative was great for the retail outlets. Gyms did the similar thing where they took things outside. So I think those initiatives that we can put them back in play, or a similar program back in play, are going to be proving helpful to them. And from the small business perspective on the grants for ventilation is helpful. And one of the things I mentioned yesterday, and it got repeated to me today, which I was happy to hear I was correct in my assumption, was that combining the governor's need with education and housing is incredibly important to small businesses, because without good housing or without job training, we're not going to grow, and we're not going to be able to do the things we need to do to come out of this in a successful way. So this combination, this factor, this framework that the governor did is really perfect for what we need right now.
Fantastic, Rick. If you don't mind, stick with me. I may bring us all back. If you have to run, no problem, but stick with me if you can. And I want to bring on Sarah Bratko. Sarah Bratko's with the Rhode Island Hospitality Association. I want to note, Sarah has put in countless hours to advocating for restaurants, as has Rick. We've all, along with Dale, had, too many late hour conversations to try to work this through. And I can't imagine there's a better alliance in the entire country between government and industry. So Sarah, thank you for your incredibly hard work. You've really been eloquent. You've been vigorous in your pursuit, and you've been very effective, as has Rick. So Sarah, I already held up one of your giveaways as a prop, the BYO blanket. Dale and you have debuted this across the state. Could you explain what is your BYOB campaign?
Absolutely, and thank you very much. We were very lucky as the unimaginable things were happening that we had a great partnership with you and your team to help us. And I think Dale probably misses our very late night phone calls, so probably not. But so about a year ago, we launched our BYO blanket campaign, and through a very generous grant through Commerce and its Take It Outside program, we were able to obtain 12,000 blankets, 5,000 fleece jackets, I think like 500 heaters and a variety of other products that we were able to give out to the restaurant and hotel industry throughout the state. And it was a great program. We took over the Providence Marriott for about 3 or 4 weeks. The whole team moved in there. We created this whole distribution center. And it was absolute chaos, but we got it out there, and it really did expand people's outdoor dining season. Rhode Island historically pre-COVID really only did outdoor dining from Memorial Day to Labor Day or Columbus Day. And it really dramatically stopped right after Columbus Day. But obviously with COVID and the capacity restrictions and a little bit of concern about on some people's parts on indoor dining, we knew we needed to keep it going. And through this program, people ate outside throughout the entire year. I know I was having dinner out on the streets of Providence well into late December. So it was a really great program, but the industry is so desperate for help right now. And we've been lucky because there has been a good amount of support, but it really just goes to show just how great of a loss the industry has felt. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which we kind of hoped was going to be the magic bullet to solving at least the restaurants' problems, was a great program in theory, although Congress severely underfunded it. They said, well, we gave you $28 billion, which sounds like a lot, but when Rhode Island restaurants went to apply, only 22% of Rhode Island restaurants even got funding. That's created absolute chaos because now you have people that are competing with their neighbors. One person got a huge, wonderful grant from the federal government, and the other restaurant, through no fault of their own, hasn't received any. And so we're really hopeful that as the governor develops his plan to present to the General Assembly, that there is going to be direct support and direct aid, not just to restaurants, but to the many other businesses that rely on it. Hotels are some of the largest employers in Rhode Island, and they have been hit the hardest, and they've received little to none economic relief. And so we need a program that really addresses the need of Rhode Island's hospitality industry, because until we recover, Rhode Island's economy doesn't recover because we play such an outsized part in it.
It's really true. And it's part of our identity. You know, our restaurants are best in class. And our hospitality industry is so welcoming and so vibrant. We have to maintain that identity. We should be enhancing it. We shouldn't be letting it deteriorate. And that's what you're advocating. Can I bring Rick back, please, Ben? And I want to ask a question of Sarah and Rick. Sarah and Rick, I've started to hear, I bet you're hearing too, well, wait a minute. You just said that you've done all of this work. You've distributed your blankets. You've put out your heaters. Well, why do you need more resources? Why do you need more resources? Why is the time now? Could you explain a little bit more?
Sarah, I'll let you go first.
As the industry, you know, the summertime is the best time to operate a business in Rhode Island, a hospitality business. We have an influx of tourists. We have people here, and it's very easy to look at a full restaurant and say they're doing fine, or look at a hotel that is 100% sold out and say they're doing great. But what you don't see, particularly on the hotel side, is they're expected to lose over $100 million in business travel in this year alone. And as much as they are fully booked on the weekends, the way that they actually make their money is through meetings and conventions and sports, all of which have been very slow to come back for obvious reasons. The restaurants are going into a slow season. The time of the fall, it typically is a very slow season.
Yes.
Yeah, we get a boost around the holidays, but the winter is very long. And the challenge that we have run into is people have maxed out their savings. They've remortgaged their homes. They've maxed out their credit cards. They've blown through their savings. And the costs of running a restaurant in Rhode Island have only gone up. And we see this across the country, but food prices have skyrocketed. Utility costs have skyrocketed. Rent prices are going to start skyrocketing. And so it's this perfect storm of people think it looks great on the outside, but on the inside, people are working a lot harder and making half as much money, if not.
Well said. Less. We hear that frequently. Rick, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I can certainly echo what Sarah said. I mean, I heard this morning from two businesses that told me about their insurance costs were going up. And one was at 12% and one was at 15% that their insurance costs had already gone up. So all of those factors. And then I think, you know, you said people want to know why we need more, why they need additional assistance. Yeah. There's also a large percentage of businesses that didn't do anything last year because they didn't have the ability, didn't have the funds, didn't have the staff, or simply weren't even open at the time, couldn't
Exactly.
be open at the time. Those businesses were able to see how their colleagues were creative, what they did, how they invented things, and now have learned from them. So there's a large percentage of businesses that weren't here and able to take advantage of those initiatives last year that now can.
Extremely well said. And both of you have specific examples of that, right? Those who are still waiting for heaters or have just decided, you know what, that worked for others, let's do it, who want to expand their seating outside, therefore they need more street furniture, they need more lighting, they need the barriers, they need the lighting. And frankly, those blankets and those fuzzy coats, Sarah, customers took them home or they used them right? We got to replenish. So these are good problems to have because the program's working, just focusing on take it outside. But to your point, there's more. There's hotels, there's direct financial relief, there's other businesses that need our help. So I want to thank you so much. You represent the hospitality industry so well, the two of you. Any one last point before I move on?
Sarah?
Go out to eat frequently. Stay in hotels frequently.
I was going to just say, go out and support local. We need you now more than ever. We're still at that point.
Dine local, shop local. Thank you. Two great spokespeople for the industry. I'm very pleased that Chris Parisi from the Small Business Coalition is here. What an ally, terrific thinker and doer. And I want to bring on Hugo Adams also from the Talent Factory. We're going to start with Chris, but I like this format of the three of us on screen. Two entrepreneurs extraordinaire. Hugo is a dynamo, and Chris, of course, runs his own business too. We're going to hear about Hugo's business. Chris is a marketer extraordinaire. So Chris, could you just give us reactions? Why is moving forward with some small business investments important now?
The time is running out for some of our small businesses, so we're reaching the boiling point. Sarah and Rick really eloquently, talked about what these types of issues are. Yes. It's not just a loss of revenue, it's an increased cost. And in addition to those increased costs of labor costs, insurance costs, food costs, there's also this past year and a half for small business owners has felt like 5 to 10 years. And because of the hiring crisis that was coupled with all of everything else that's been going on, small business owners have been working longer and harder and having more stress than ever before. So we're coupling all of these rising costs, these decrease in revenues, the increase of hours and times, and we're really reaching a boiling point where there's some small businesses that simply cannot wait till 2022 for leadership to get together to make a decision on how to allocate this $1.1 billion. So the governor's saying, hey, let's take 10%. That still leaves about $1 billion, by the way. Let's just take 10, right? That's still a lot. So let's take that 10% and do immediate programs that helps our small businesses in addition to what childcare and housing. Exactly. As Rick alluded to, it is all interconnected. But small businesses, as the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition co-founder and president, I hear a lot from our small businesses, and they don't feel they have the time to wait. They need the financial assistance, as Sarah alluded to, as well as technical assistance and ways to adapt their business, such as the Take It Outside program for that industry, retail, and other ways to help grow their business and make sure that they're able to not only survive in this year, these next 3 months, but also thrive in 2022 and beyond.
So well said, Chris. And you're closely in touch with the small businesses of this state. You've formed a coalition that didn't exist before and is creating a real voice for small businesses. And we're grateful to hear it directly from you and through you to hear directly from them. Hugo, you've taken one of the previous Commerce grants. It was a HEART grant, which was for arts and hospitality institutions and businesses, especially smaller ones, and you did take it outside, and you were showing me just yesterday some of the images of what you produced. Oh my goodness, Hugo, could you tell people what did you do and why was?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me today. So we did receive the HEART grant, and we chose to take it outside. That was our proposal. We saw what was going on with the Take It Outside grant. We were late to the boat on that one. So we took the Heart grant and we created this outdoor performance space for our industry. So in the performing arts field, the venues were closed, right? That's a whole nother conversation, but PPAC was closed.
Yes.
Veterans Memorial Auditorium was closed. All the local high school auditoriums were closed. The GAM was closed. All these theaters that we rent to have our performances were closed. So what we decided to do with the money that we received at the Talent Factory was to purchase everything we needed to create an outdoor stage.
Yes.
We had some help, Advanced Production and Design. They helped us out. They offered us chairs. They rented us chairs. So the money went to help a lot of other small businesses, as well as giving our performing arts industry peers a place to perform. With that said, I'll tell you, we did do over 20 shows. We accommodated 11 dance studios, and youth theater programs. And we generated over $150,000 that stayed with each individual company that used the space. It was donated space, and the money that they brought in stayed with them. So it was extremely successful, and we hope to do it again.
And we hope you do it again. And you've set a great precedent. You created a gorgeous stage setup. And I'm now carrying the image around with me because you were kind enough to send it my way. And you've shown others how it can be done. And are there enhancements you'd want to do if there were more resources?
Absolutely. So you mentioned two great points at the beginning of this segment. You spoke about ventilation. That's a big deal for us because now that the state has opened, most of the country is opened, we plan on taking this stage indoors. We recently rented a facility in Warwick, and we plan on building this outdoor venue indoor now. That's project underway now. So we're using the stage and all the resources we purchased with that grant, along with other resources, and we're going inside. So really important to us, ventilation and consumer confidence. Those are two great things that you brought up earlier. So some of this money could really help us accomplish just that, accomplish being able to demonstrate to people that we have a safe place for them to attend, which is extremely important for consumers, right?
Truly.
And I do want to bring up one enormous point that's affecting our industry. We work with children. The majority of our business is children. So just like we're hearing about the schools, and schools are having a lot of trouble keeping kids in school because of the close contact, they're not vaccinated, it's not a vaccinated population. So the consumer confidence is really important because our industry is still extremely affected by what's going on with the children not being vaccinated and being in schools, right? Because in schools they get that close contact. So we're having a lot of trouble with that, and I know a lot of the restaurants are open. It's amazing. No one dines out more than I do. Don't tell my accountant I said that. And I love it. I love the state of Rhode Island. We love doing everything that we do outside and supporting other businesses. But our industry is extremely affected right now.
So helpful hearing from you both. Chris, any last word for us before we move on to Director Matt Weldon?
Yeah, I would just say that Hugo is a great example of multiple things. Number one, adapting your business and being creative, just like Rick pointed out with the delivery system. Commerce supported them, made an initial investment that grew much more, which was great to see. Another one is the mental health, right? These children were given an outlet that otherwise they wouldn't have had, as other venues were shut down. And that's important as well, because just like I mentioned, the mental health of small business owners is also the consumers and the children that we can consider. So it's just a great example, and donating his space as well to help all these other local studios, 11 of them, I believe, is a great example of an entrepreneur like Hugo and a department like Commerce working together to support our small businesses, and not just one, but many. So let's continue those great efforts working with the government, folks like yourself and your team, Lieutenant Governor and Governor McKee, who has this proposal to let's use these funds. Let's get these funds out into the small business community so that we can continue to be the backbone and continue to have that great 5th ranking and maybe number 1 and eventually, but definitely number 1 in New England. So let's keep that up and keep the pedal to the metal.
I just want to add to what you just said, Chris, about you were talking about the children and their mental health. We had over 1,600, and I'm reading this because we wrote it down and we posted it when it happened. We had over 1,600 children perform this summer over the course of 6 weeks on that stage. We had over 4,700 parents and grandparents, because realistically, that's who attends these shows, is their families. They show up to support these kids. And this was at a time where they didn't have it. They didn't have a solid school year and they didn't have an outlet. So that heart grant really made a huge difference.
It warms the heart to hear it. And Hugo, if someone wants to find out, if Rhode Islanders want to find out how they can check out your performances or plug into your programs, how do they do it?
TalentFactoryRI.com. We're
Fantastic.
on every social media outlet, so you can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and we're always there.
There it is. Ben's on it. TalentFactoryRI.com. Thank you, Hugo and Chris. You're both amazing. Thank you so very much. We're truly privileged to have with us to round up today's program Director Matt Weldon, who is working overtime and valiantly and effectively to get the word out on the changes to the UI program. And thank you for your patience today, Director Weldon, in joining us. We had an action-packed program, and you're a key part of it. And what we want to do is offer you, as is traditional, just an opportunity to offer an update on the changes in the UI program and any key messages you want to offer to previous URI recipients.
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Secretary. I like this role for you. Maybe we can, I know that the LG suggested that you were going to start a show with her, but I may want to jump in on that too.
I like it.
Big changes in unemployment. We went from the pandemic unemployment, which wasn't just the gig worker unemployment, but it was gig worker unemployment, extended regular unemployment. Usually that lasts only up to 26 weeks. During the pandemic, it was extended several times. People were on claims for up to 17 months. Long time. We also had the extra $600 and then the extra $300 that was pushed into Rhode Island's economy. And a lot of people asked the governor, why didn't you shut that off a few months ago, like half of the states in the country did? And the reason was because we knew working families needed that money to get by, and we knew small businesses relied on people spending that money at their business. And just that extra $300 alone, with the extra $600, put about $1.85 billion with a B, into Rhode Island's economy. That's a lot of money. We're glad that we did it. It ended though. And now we're back to unemployment the way it's always been, which is up to 26 weeks for individuals that qualify based on how much they earn in the 15 months before they filed. What does that mean for a number of people collecting? We had about 54,000 people, 55,000 people in the last week of benefits. Last week, we had 9,200 people. So there's 45,000 that ended up leaving. And that's significant. It's huge. Those people, I hope, are getting connected back to the economy. And a lot of people have seen me on different media outlets talking about getting people back to work. And it wasn't,
getting that word out.
We had to. And it wasn't because I'm cold-hearted. I've been accused of that before, but I don't think that's the case here. I feel for people, but what happened is they woke up one week and they applied for unemployment and they didn't have it. And so we've been talking about it for a long time. We had to get them back to work. We reinstated the work search requirement on May 23rd. About 13,000 people went back to work after we did that. We changed the UI law to allow people to earn more money and still stay connected to unemployment. And we know that over 4,000 people collected a payment that wouldn't have without those changes, and 12,000 people maximized their family income because we allowed them to keep more of their own money. Good things have happened, but we need to get more people back to work. So what's the solution? Part of the solution is go to backtoworkri.com. You can get connected right away with virtual job fairs that we host every week, or sometimes more frequently. Job opportunities that are available right now. Career coaches, one-on-one, just like you and I are on the screen right now. They can talk to an actual person, get some help, and get connected. And for employers, take a few minutes and set up an account. It's free, and we can post your jobs for free. You don't have to pay anyone to do that. We can host virtual job fairs for you. We can host an in-person job fair so long as we do it safely. There's a lot of things that we can do, and we do it all for free. So please go to that website and take advantage of those services. Just a couple other quick things. Workshare. Workshare has been very popular. Workshare during the height of the pandemic had about 220 companies that were active. That's huge because we usually have about 6 at any given time. Right now, we're down to 82. I think that's because the federal government stopped funding it at 100%. And, hopefully people are getting back to work. But it's still an option. If people want to look up Workshare, Ben threw it up on the screen. Please go for it. We want to help you there. Finally, just a message to all you employers out there that have received unemployment tax statements in the last week. I've seen a number of these come in through inquiry. I want to make sure I explain what's going on. DLT has taken back that tax unit that was at the Department of Revenue. It passed in the budget this year. They're moving over to my department in October, but right now those people work for DLT. We are taking that responsibility back, which is basically assessing the unemployment tax and collecting it. We did a lot of work in the last few weeks under the leadership of the gentleman that runs that unit to credit employers' accounts for charges that were made during the pandemic that were fraudulent. We always told you we were going to do it, and it hadn't necessarily been done. Last week, we sent out notices, and a lot of people are emailing me saying, Matt, I got a notice, and it has this name on it, and I told you it was fraud. If you look at that notice, it's kind of an archaic system, but there is a minus symbol right after the dollar amount charged. That means that's a credit on your statement. So if there's a minus after it, that means you're getting the money back into your account. We did that last week. We sent millions of dollars back to employers. That's a good thing. We're trying to help in any way we can. I think that's it from me.
Sure. You are on multiple fronts, aiming to help and helping. So thank you, Director Weldon. Really appreciate this update. Know that for a number of Rhode Islanders, it's hard to tune in at any given time, and we need to keep repeating the messaging about what's happening with the unemployment insurance system, the opportunities of Workshare, and well beyond. So, Director, thank you for everything that you've done. We're ready to wrap up for today. Thank you for those who've watched. Hope that you have learned something and been informed by this program. We're very grateful to Lieutenant Governor Matos for creating this venue and for inviting me to host on this particular occasion. Thank you all. Be well. Have a safe and good day.